Okay, so welcome back to Easy Reefers. And today, as we were discussing before, we're talking about setting up a nano tank. But first, before we continue into that, let's talk about maintaining a nano tank. Now, there's a lot of options as far as what you can use for substrate. Here you'll see in this tank, on one side I have oregonite, on the other side I have oolite. This is a more coarse sand. This is a very, very fine powdery sand. But you know what? If you want to, you can actually set up a reef tank and maintain it quite effectively, pristinely in fact, with a glass bottom. What you're looking at there is a quarantine, but it has a piece of live rock in the middle, and the effect is similar, as is the cleaning technique. All you basically do is cause current to blow the detritus around. What doesn't get eaten by a fish or taken up by a filter will settle underneath that live rock or just on the side of the live rock. And then your water changes consist of siphoning out those spots where the stuff settles. Now, that right there has 2 fish being medicated in it. And after quarantining a flame angel and a 6-line wrasse, I had some live rock that had some medication stuck to it. So I figured let the triggerfish chew on it. But anyways, Smurfette, the blue damsel, just had a relapse. That's why they're still in there. Gonna be making some moves soon, but I'm not quite sure when. So anyways, in the previous installment, talked about flow pumps. And I'm personally having good experience with the current USA pumps. That's these here. And I bought one of each just to see which one had what kind of power, which one was worth the money, so to speak, which one was overkill. And, you know, I'm going to be setting up a store one day, so I needed to know these things. You're probably going to only need, setting up a nano tank, the smallest of the available ones, which says it's a 660 gallon per hour model. Now, if you're setting up a 20 gallon or bigger, you know, if you're pushing the limits of what should be called a nano tank, okay, it's just a fucking aquarium, that's all it is. It's not a nano tank. It's just an aquarium. Marketing words. And you know, marketing words are only as good as before they get stale. So maybe we should just all stop using the phrase nano tank. I have a small aquarium. It's an aquarium and it's small. It's not nano. I don't really know what nano means unless you're speaking Japanese. And even then, I'm not really sure. But anyway, so they have a 1,200 gallon per hour model. Or is it 1,000? Yeah, 1,000 gallon per hour. And I don't have the box for that one, do I? I have the one with the extra controller stored. But the 1,050, which is half as much as this one, that one, yeah, maybe 2 of those and 1 of those for a 20, maybe 2 of those and 1 of those, or you know, 1 of each running on the wave side, and then a bigger one or a smaller one on the back of a 29 gallon, depending on how you have the rock set up. But before you decide how much money you need to spend on your wave maker, okay, on the flow, what you need to decide on is how you're going to set up the tank. Now, if you're going to set it up with the proverbial wall of rock on the back, which clearly this one does not have, you're going to need more wave makers. Not just more powerful wave makers. You're going to need more wave makers, because there's going to be more different hiding places where current is not going to be able to get to. And that's regardless of whether or not you set up in a sand bed. You'll have detritus spots like this that last forever. Now, I've been introducing new fish into this tank, and this tank has already recently been set up, as I was saying earlier. Only recently been upgraded to. So the cyno is a little annoying in this tank, just growing right here and right here. But it's getting better. You know, this is like the peak of the day. The lights have been on full white for quite some time. It's 4-ish, 4 p.m., you know. But because I had my wave makers turned down until just a little while ago, I turned them back up. This has been able to build up a little more than it should be able to. After this gets cleaned out, this is just, you know, to fully explain why this shouldn't be happening to you. I one time had a fish per gallon in this system. Okay, I had 100 gallons worth of water and I had 100 fish in it. That's a big no-no. Okay, but I was raising clownfish that I hatched out myself. These beautiful true Hercules spitters. So, you can get away with a fluval and a cheap Chinese light during your setup period. Okay. And during that period, your AquaClear carbon will be very handy. Okay. With that AquaClear carbon, you can go ahead and start feeding the tank and add your cleanup crew to it. You can go and buy a couple of pieces of live rock, or maybe have a friend give you a piece of live rock to, quote, seed your tank with the coralline algae and the microfauna and the more complex natural bacteria that occurs in the ocean or in more established systems, okay? After years of competing and dealing with synthetic environmental conditions, that bacteria is going to be better off in your reef tank than any kind of bacterial and a little better than what they've been selling you for the past 30 years, but still, that's where they got most of this stuff, was from water filtration tanks, centers, for normal water use to process human poo. So, yeah, it's not necessarily that good in a fish tank poo environment, especially when it's saltwater that you do. But nonetheless, while I think taking some sand from a clean, and I mean, look at their fish, okay? Don't get you some ick from somebody's sand or that live rock. Make sure no fish are breathing heavy, okay? If a fish is breathing a little bit heavy, find somewhere else to get your shit from. Find another way of doing it, okay? If you can't, this is a perfectly legitimate method of establishing an initial biological filtration bed. Now, if you play it safe, if you really want to not have any problems, make sure that whatever way you go, if you add a cleanup crew, if you add live rock from somebody else's tank, anything that might be dirty, if you're not 100% sure you trust it, wait a good 6 weeks before you go and add fish in there. Okay? And what you can do is maybe even add some fish oil, or make sure you're adding fish-based food, okay, to make sure that any kind of parasites come out and hatch and try to look for food, but don't succeed. Another thing you can do when getting your cleanup crew is hermit crabs and snails can both be treated with Pro, causing fluke worms, which travel on snails, and sometimes hermit crabs if their shell's fresh enough. Causes them all to die, and fluke worms can be a problem that remain in the snail shell even after the system has been left fallow for 6 weeks. So highly advisable. Or once I do open my store, I will be selling a fluke-free snail alternative called a Stomatella varia, which is right there. And that's about all you can see of it right now, because they're nocturnal. At night you will see them start to crawl out from under the rocks and all over your glass. But yeah, their shell is flat to their body, and I've yet to see a fluke worm in one, or any kind of other worm attached to a stomatella. Also, because they have a mantle, like a fleshy digestive organ, actually, that they extend backwards over to their shell to eat algae that grows on them. How cool is that? Don't you wish you could just grow algae on your back and just, nice snack. Anyways, so you plan out your rods. Then you determine what kind of flow am I going to need to get all the water around the rocks moving as much as possible. Usually, the correct answer is 3 pumps. Some people get away with just 2. If you're in a cube, especially an acrylic cube with the rounded edges, you can just have 1 in the corner, and it'll make a vortex all the way around. And if you pulsate, it'll just make a pulsating vortex all the way around. The more linear, the longer and skinnier the aquarium, the harder it is to provide flow for. See this similar pump setup? I don't have the hole in the back where I have empty space back behind here. See? So instead of 2 pumps facing opposite, I have 2 pumps facing opposite, and then I have 2 pumps facing this way. Okay? So they're going down and around this way, while these 2 go back and forth this way. And that creates a really chaotic current. And I'm not satisfied that I have it perfect, or that this is the exact right approach for this tank. But I haven't exactly finished adding rock to this tank. I'm going to create another little cave over here. Some tasty looking algae growing on those rocks. Whenever saltwaterfish.com has my Atlantic blue tang in stock. Gonna make sure that's going to go in the quarantine with her. So anyways, now once you get your hardware, and that includes heaters, thermometers, algae scrapers, all the extra accessories, and A heater is very important if you live in a colder climate, not so much around here, unless you want to keep like a anemone. They're the only thing really that I even worry about having a heater for. Other than that, during the winter, a heater helps to reduce bacterial infections, that kind of thing. Higher, steadier, constant temperature is a good thing. Right around 78, 80 degrees. That's where these fish live in the wild. Then you need a water source. Okay? Now, you can go and take a jug and wait. Or I can take a cigarette and enjoy my walk through the house. I looked around and didn't see a jug. I was going to bring a jug back there with me. You can take yourself a 5-gallon jug that you can buy at any aquarium store. Yeah, like that. And set up in your bathroom on one of these fancy over-the-toilet racks. Good God, that's just not something I should be showing to the public. Let's just say the lid normally stays down, and it shows. It's just a spread of fucking mildew right there. I hope that was blurry. But anyways, so this is one of them little metal over-the-toilet shelf things for your towels and shit, right? And I've got a little bit of extra action going here, but that's because I realized that the best way to set this up, not necessarily the cheapest adequate way, the best way to set it up is with dual DI cartridges at the end, just to make sure you don't wind up with shitty water before one of those cartridges go out, you know. Basically, this does 2 types of filtration. Each one of those types of filtration can happen at a different rate. So you never really know quite when it's empty on one of those 2 types of filtration. So you're better off, as this one starts to look empty, having a next one, okay, and then, you know, replacing that one and so on. Always having a full cartridge. When the next one starts to get used, you move that forward and get a brand new resin to fill the next one. So this is less complicated than it looks. Okay. Your water hooks up to your sink, or, you know, there's certainly ways to have this custom installed, but most kits that you can find, like this purely H2O one from eBay, come with a kit that you can hook right up to your sink. And the water comes through a pre-filter, goes through carbon, and then goes through what's called a ceramic membrane, okay, which is why you have a pressure gauge here, because you need to be able to provide about 35 psi minimal to get the water through that membrane, okay? And then from that point on, it goes in any kind of gaseous toxins like nitrates and phosphates that happen to be in the water. Say bye-bye with the DI resin. Back when I was starting out in the hobby, we had these 3 stages. That was it. This is fairly new to me. What I do here is I have my bathtub little side shelf there. Set the jug on that. That way, if it overflows, because I forgot that it was on, it just goes right into the tub. Works out pretty good. So, that right there is the key, the ground zero starting point of being able to keep any kind of coral alive. And the absolute key to not having uncontrollable fuck algae all the time. If you don't live in some kind of mountain with a pristine spring water coming straight to your tap, you are going to get hair algae and diatoms and all kinds of crap if you don't use RODI water. The only alternative is to buy distilled water from the grocery store. And that, well, results may vary. Because while it doesn't have high phosphates, it's going to wind up absorbing a lot of the silicates from the plastic it's being contained in. And what that'll do is that'll enhance the brown, slimy algae growth. That shit's never fun. So, anyways, this to me is, equivalent to what the kids are calling a nano tank these days. If I were to have this as an unconnected system, all I would use is an aqua clear for some Phosguard, maybe some carbon from time to time, just to be able to put it in there. Okay. I might, but I probably wouldn't worry about running some biomedia in there. But I would kind of keep this in there when I didn't have the carbon in there, because, shit don't hurt. But primarily, I would want one of those nice little cheap Rio Nano Skimmers, like this one here. I have the basket that's currently disassembled. But this little guy here, has a little collection cup, comes right off the top of it, sits right on there. And probably can't see that very well, but it's a very simple little filter. And other than human error breaking the ceramic impeller, the shaft, I've never really had a problem with one. As far as Wavemaker brands go, the Fluval works like a Fluval. Fluval's very reliable company for anything that they make. Don't think you're going to be happy with one of their lights unless you get one of the remote controller thingies on there. But other than that, the only thing to worry about is the mistake I made, thinking that an AC pump was a good idea to put on a Wavemaker. I wanted to see how long it would last. One of these pumps has not lasted. So I've recently taken that pump off of the alternating Wavemaker deal, and yeah, fucking current's still going just fine in there. Basically that one's going on and off, and this one's going constantly. The pump didn't stop working, it just, one time it'll start and it'll work fine, one time it'll start and it won't. It'll just sit there and rattle, or it'll spin backwards, and that's freaking annoying. But anyways, I think, without anyone chatting and asking me other questions that they might have, I think that's all the basic wisdom I can provide for somebody. You want to get you a couple of buckets to mix your salt water in, get you some Instant Ocean, a 1 cup measuring cup in 2 gallons of water. It's a good rate to mix for just little siphon out water changes, and then keep at least 1 5-gallon jug filled with fresh distilled water at all times. Oh yeah, fresh distilled water, there we go. The last thing we're going to talk about is top off. Now, I think the easiest thing that somebody could go out and buy to handle their top off is one of those Zoomed reptile drippers. But if you're going to make something, you just get a container that can hold water. Get you a piece of acrylic tubing and some hose. Put your rubber band on there and adjust the flow accordingly. You just got to remember to top that water off. Now, if you want to be really spiffy, keep your parameters up very easily. Keep your pH up very easily. Marine buffer and the top off water. Okay? If somebody's using Kalkwaser for a nano tank, I want to meet the crazy fucker. Okay? Because a little bit of that in your top off water, and then dosing maybe a cap full of this every week until you think you need more, until you get some coral growth, until you get some calcium requirements. Should be just fine. Now, I was thinking about maybe doing a video by itself for this, but I'll go ahead and include it now because I think the person who asked me to do this video is probably going to want to have plants in their system. Okay. Now, when you have corals and you're trying to provide calcium for corals, they consume, what is known in the hobby as an equal amount of calcium and alkalinity. That's why you have these two-part solutions, okay? However, these calcium-hungry plants I have don't need the alkalinity. So, in order to not use uneven amounts of this, I add some of this. This is an organic, different type of calcium that actually stimulates coral growth as well, but basically you can dose that as concentration you're looking for. I pretty much dose things as I can afford them, and I get the health and, you know, quality of growth that I can afford, so I don't run out of shit. Because what I don't want to do is run out of shit. You want everything to feel like it's in a stable environment, you know? We all like to be in a stable environment, don't we? But anyways, I got to get my arm back to a stable environment here, because it's been operating as the human stealthy stick for quite a while. Hey, how's it going, Mr. Conway? Good to see you. Just about to sign off. I hope you guys find this video to be pretty helpful. Feel free to ask any questions you want to in the comments, and I'll try to get back to y'all. I do have the ability to reply to comments right now on my new devices.
For now.
Yeah, my old phone got hacked. It was just a brick one day. Just a total fucking brick. Nothing happened to it. It just bricked out on me. So I got a new one. And I'm trying to start paying more attention to the laptop. And of course, now that we are the Easy Reefers channel, my wife is going to be helping out a lot more on the social media side of things. So,
Not just because we're the Easy Reefer channel now, but because all of a sudden I have plenty of time on my hands.
that too.
Not bitter at all.
So anyways, trying to think. Y'all know I like the New Life Spectrum foods. It doesn't hurt to keep some omega garlic flakes, or these are Pt2 mysis flakes, and possibly some frozen brine shrimp or frozen mysis as you're getting new fish, just to help them acclimate and start eating, especially if you're not going to do a quarantine.
Also,
but you know, either way.
check out our Macna video because Sean actually interviewed the new licensure guy on some new products that they had out.
Yeah, I'm going to be posting the full video of all the different little Macna clips, the full versions of those pretty soon, along with hopefully the re-edited version of the Macna video after I fixed it. I was going to start a new channel and call that Easy Reefers, but now we've just changed this channel for the time being. So.
On 6 line just went behind that rock. That is interesting. Go back to the...
Oh yeah, he's up there. Aggravating those ones too. But anyways, I will look at the screen right now and you can send me any questions you might have. Otherwise, we're going to call this a broadcast. Because my fucking arm is really just tired of being like that. I want to do that again. Okay. So we got our live rock and our sand, processing waste down into fertilizer. We've got the plants absorbing the fertilizer. We've got a protein skimmer absorbing fish pee if we hope to keep corals or sensitive fish alive. We got lighting. Bare minimum you need to start out with 1 pump and a light, okay? And a heater, of course.
Yes.
Yep, there's a couple of fish called cleaner wrasses. There's a couple of blennies that do that. And actually the blue Atlantic tang that we're getting is known to do that, especially in its juvenile state, eating parasites and dead skin off of other fish. That's pretty cool. Usually that's only applicable as far as the eating the parasites thing. It's only applicable to larger parasites, cryptocarian and larger. Smaller parasites and microbes, not going to be able to do much for them. On the Seachem rack over here, if you're wondering what I have, this is iodide, calcium, potassium, iron, and then Seachem Fusion 2 part. This is the most important thing to have. This is all extra stuff that I add on an as-needed basis. And it comes with experience. Don't start adding any of this until you've learned to test for it and look for the amounts of it. The calcium being the one exception to that, and that's only if you're using like the calcium for something. You know, if you're growing coralline algae, there you got a way to grow coralline algae. Should be good enough. But no substitute for water changes by any means. It's not a complete calcium alkalinity substance by any means. All it's really good for is stimulating coral growth and helping the corals keep calcium away from the plants, and the plants keep, you know, like basically keeping the plants from causing the corals to starve and vice versa. Now, two very important things that you might want to keep with you. Prime, stress guard. If you have something die in your tank, if you spill something, God forbid, in your tank, if you have anything just look weird in your tank, you add prime to it. You're introducing a new fish. If you have a fish that gets injured, if you have a fish that is sick and you don't know if you'll be able to take it out and treat it properly, use that in the reef tank all day long. Stress guard. It's basic first aid for fish. And this is first aid for the tank water. This neutralizes contaminants, basically. Okay. Bear in mind, though, it will also neutralize supplements. So that's why people say you shouldn't use it in a reef tank. It's safe to use in a reef tank. If you have water quality problems, you're better off having a little bit of your supplements getting neutralized and having nitrates and shit that's poisonous to the fish and stuff. But bear in mind that to get back to your alkaline conditions that you need to grow coral and keep anemones happy and all that good stuff, you're going to need to do a water change after using Prime. Stress Guard, somewhat similar in that effect. Both of these will remove even medication from the water, okay, cause it to become inert. So, other than that, you got the hardware down, you got the software down. Chopsticks, a squirter, and a toothbrush. This toothbrush has a breaker bar on it, so I can. No, it's just a little bit of an extra reach extender. That's all it is. It's got a breaker bar on it, so I can remove axles with a toothbrush. No. Okay, I'm getting tired because that was clearly not a funny joke. So I guess it's time to go ahead and call this a broadcast, folks. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and click the like button for me. Share this to anybody who you might think could be interested and want to be setting up a aquarium. Hopefully they'll see just how easy it is. You don't need calcium reactors. You don't need dosing pumps. And y'all, have a good one.